better. What is it that folks from Moscow and the US and China and South Korea, I mean, they are winning competitions day and nights, right? So I am a huge believer in कि simple सी बात है, ज़्यादा practice नहीं की होगी बस, right? You get a few stars, that's it, and a few stars look pretty good on like resume, and then you get a job, and then that's it. But I think like in order to win these global competitions, a lot more practice may be required, and a lot more, just pure. Like I'm not sure. Like Gaurav, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think I don't know. Like, okay, competitive programming. Let's take it for what it is. It's a sport similar to Counter Strike, which is an e-sport, or let's say chess, or let's say any sport in the Olympics. So, is have we ever really, as Indians, thought of this? I mean, trying to win it. Um, I would say the majority, which means more than 99% of the people, don't really want to get an ACM gold. So I don't know whether we have ever really tried for it also. If there is someone who says that, I want to be a red coder or world rank one, there's so many people who say so many things, but they don't really, I mean, they don't back it up with effort. The other thing is that this is something which is pretty new. It's a low popularity sport also. It's not even like, let's say, chess, which a lot of people play. This is computer science folks who are interested in algorithms and then choose this competitive programming kind of thing. Even amongst algorithms, there are some people who are totally theoretical. They don't even want to go and code. So yeah, I think maybe yeah, there's so many factors here which I cannot measure actually. When it comes to why haven't we won a medal? I went to one of the Snackdown contests. I have met some people who were 12 years old, 13 years old. They must be now 16 or 17. Those guys haven't even gone to college yet. So, and they were telling me that, I watched your videos, it's really helpful, but I don't know how to work with wavelet trees. And I was like, dude, wavelet trees, I didn't know till I was 25. And you guys are so young. So, uh, I think it requires maybe a lot of effort, which I don't think is worth it in computer programming specifically. Like, why would you want to be really good at football in India? Is a question you need to ask yourself. Why would you want to be really good at computer programming when, yeah, 10% of the effort you can, earn a really big salary?
Could not agree more with that, and that's exactly the answer I had in mind. People are not here to win competitions; they are here to land jobs, which is all 100% fine. I actually put out a tweet about, like, why did you get into tech? And some people were saying, I got it in for the money. And that was totally okay. I was totally supporting that. And then some people were saying, oh, no, you have to have passion or whatever. I'm like, calm down, okay? If someone is doing, if someone is getting into tech for the money, then that's totally okay. It's like not a problem. You may never know how someone's household structure is or their financial conditions are. So if someone says I'm getting into tech for the money, that's totally fine. It is not all not at all an issue. So yeah, I agree with your point. When someone gets into computer programming in India, they don't want to win; they want to land a job. Which I believe until and unless you are like really good at getting some ranks in like like Google Kickstart or something. I mean, if you're doing computer programming and then you're landing into like something Microsoft or Amazon India, I think that is a complete waste of time. Have you ever seen the questions of Microsoft or like Amazon in India? If you're talking about like Facebook or Google, that's I think that makes a little bit of sense. But it's like IIT का prepare करके IP का एग्जाम में फोड़ दिया. That's sort of what I think about when when people say something things like that. And this is misleading a lot of folks. This is what the problem is, and this is the reason why even in the next 10 years we won't be able to win anything. And the reason is all about the mindset, and that's it, nothing else.
Yeah, no. So one of the things is like the fact is also, do we really care? I don't care about computer programming winning a gold medal. There was a entire company that we had a CSR effort called Code Chef. Maybe it's awesome, but it's as good as I don't know where to put it. It's somewhere between winning the Counter Strike gold medal and somewhere between winning the chess gold medal. For me, it's like doesn't really matter. No one
Yeah, no one
honestly
cares.
cares. Yeah.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
as a nation state, we definitely should not spend resources on this. As private organizations, people do spend resources on this, but it's basically giving people incentives that come on, you join me after you have done well in the contest.
Yeah, could not agree more. Hey, Logan, you have joined as a speaker as well. How's it going?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Kunal, I wanted to ask a really quick question and get your perspective on this. I don't come from a deep competitive programming background. I've dabbled like once or twice, but what do you think some of the trade-offs are between spending your time doing something like competitive programming versus contributing to open source? And I'm sure you have a video about this, but interested to get your perspective.
Yeah, Gaurav can answer this as well. I'll add my points. We both are developers. I think like Gaurav mentioned, I'm just going to quote him. CP is a sport, just like any other, like chess or something. I personally believe it has nothing to do with your job. It has nothing to do with your interview preparation. It has nothing to do with, all these other things. I mean, sure, it can definitely help you land a job, but if you, let's say, how do I put this? Um, if you hack into Google, right, then also you will get a job at Google. So there's no statement on this, right? So if someone is like, if you score like under 10 to under like a 2-digit rank in Google Kickstart, you will get a call from Google. Like that's fine, but it's a lot of effort required in it, right? So you get my point, right? And on the other hand, if you're talking about open source, the number of opportunities never stop. So from my personal point of view, I have dwelled around with the computer programming algorithms or whatever. I don't think it's important in like your day-to-day life. I think basic data structures and algorithms are more than enough. But as a developer, and personally, I know some amazing people in the open source community. None of them, who do computer programming, and they are still like maintaining so many amazing open source projects and have even started so many amazing open source projects. So
Also started realizing this, and that's the reason why they have started using different methods, alternate methods. Open source contributions is one of them. Um, but having said that, I mean, yeah, this was one method which is out there. It was something totally new when it came in computer programming about 3 or 4 years ago, and then became huge. Now it's like the standard mainstream way, and it's getting too crowded. This window of opportunity has too many people in it. The window has no more space to breathe.
could not agree more, and I love what Gaurav said, and 100% to the point, and just sound such an amazing pointer, and I love it. I think like in my experience that I've seen, I think in future more and more companies are gonna uh, shift to like hiring folks from open source. I mean, startups are doing it, and companies outside India are doing it. But in India, I believe like one of the main problems is that we have a lot of people. So companies got a lot applications, and they have to filter out applications in a really easy way. Saying that, even there also computer programming is a waste of time, because in order to clear these interviews, you don't need CP. You just, I think lead code is more than enough. There's a video by Ben Awad. It's called "Coding Interviews Are Broken," and I totally relate with that. They are broken, and yeah, that's it. Lead code for the win. Logan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, I think my understanding is that there are certain specific job contexts in which competitive programming can actually be really helpful. But I think the reality is for like a normal engineer who's just going to do software at some company, like it's probably not going to be directly applicable. But again, there's probably very specific contexts, and I'm not in those contexts, so I'm not sure what they are, but I would imagine that those places exist.
Yeah, and just adding on to what Gaurav said, that I have seen that as well. Folks who are computer programmers and then they get a job, and then they quit their job or like either get fired because they don't enjoy doing it and they like don't like it or whatever. So I think like try to get a feeling of development or like working in a team. Uh, if you have time, like as a student, that'd be pretty great. Um, but yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. Shiva, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Your hand raised. Go ahead. Yeah, so actually, I had a couple of points regarding what we were discussing just now. So, one of them was actually just the point that Logan mentioned, and that is that I believe that yes, at I would say that for 99.9% of the cases, in the case that you become a software engineer at a company, whether you have done CP or you might not have done CP, it wouldn't matter, because it would relatively stay the same in terms of like the applicability of what kind of code you're writing. But probably if you're looking at like really niche categories, so for example, someone working on the core Google search engine, where they are required to even optimize the search results by even, like, let's say a fraction of a second, which can actually matter a lot. Probably those are kind of like, places where generally people who have been hired having really good CP ranks, and then they have been put into such kind of positions to optimize those kind of workflows. But I think that even without the need for CPU could still be able to do that, right? So yeah, I mean, I wanted to know, Kunal, your views, and Logan, your views on probably this kind of such kind of niche categories. And I mean, Logan, as you mentioned, that those are quite rare in right in numbers. And secondly, that I had was with respect to given the fact again that, as we are seeing that more and more companies are now looking at your open source skills as well, because now a lot of companies are using open source tools like Kubernetes, right? So if someone who has contributed to core Kubernetes, if companies are able to find such people, they'll directly hire them without even really looking at much of their DS algo or CP credentials, right? So how do you feel that the landscape today has changed, and like, or do you feel, because even today, right, there's no denying of the fact that if someone gets a really good rank, and that's extremely difficult to get in a competition like Google Codejam, Google might directly ask them to give an interview. So that landscape is changing, but do you feel that there is still a possibility for it to remain in that way, as in people still getting selected just based on their CP skills, or do you feel that it will after a time completely sort of remove like this kind of a perspective that if you're a good CP person, you'll get directly hired, like that mentality will completely wash out, and people will be just hired based on their actual skills that they have?
Yeah, this mentality is not outside India. If you talk about Google North America or other campuses, they don't really care about your CP rankings, first of all. It's only in India, at least in my experience, and I'm not sure like it's going anywhere. Because just in my experience, I've seen like they do prefer, like in companies over here in India, the rank of your college, your CP rankings or whatever on all these other things, priorities like this are given. Like whenever I asked for referrals for someone in Google India, they were like, send us your CodeChef profile. But when I asked for referrals for someone who was outside India, they gave me on the basis of my open source contribution. My resume was actually rejected for Google India, and I was selected for Google North America for an internship. And I think like I'm not really aware of the hiring process of these companies. Can't really share, but Kevin has joined. Kevin works at Google, so maybe he can answer. Maybe Kevin, you can give a brief intro about yourself and maybe answer Shivi's question if you were listening.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm currently a software engineer working in New York City. Shivi, for your question, I think, and I've talked about this before in a previous space, but what I sort of hope is that the interview landscape just sort of keeps evolving. And so I think it sort of has already, right? Like if you look back to sort of the early 2000s, companies like Google and other large tech companies would ask like brain teasers. They'd ask why are manhole covers round? They'd ask how many, ping pong balls you could fit in a 747 and all these sort of crazy questions. And I think that the underlying things that they're trying to do haven't changed that much. And like I think Kunal, you mentioned, Ben Awad's video about coding. I could see, Gaurav was saying how it's not really applicable to what you do day to day, and I totally sympathize with that. But on the other hand, I also think that they do sort of show certain things that are valuable as an engineer, right? I think it shows that you can deal with ambiguity. A lot of the questions that you're being asked, they don't give you all the information. You have to probe for additional data points and edge cases that you might need to handle in your code. I think it teaches you how to, communicate with someone else and talk about how you're going to solve a problem and then break it down into translatable steps that ultimately become code. And I think it shows that you can analyze runtime and space complexity. Hopefully you're writing clean code. You're breaking things down into functions that can then be tested, and you could talk about the testing. So I think that there's value behind the current interview process. But with that being said, not everyone, performs well in 45 minutes under this crazy time pressure. And, the stakes are high. Like, people really care about these companies, is my understanding, and people really want to get into a lot of these larger companies. And it's really upsetting if, you have 45 minutes and you don't do well under pressure, but you're a genius. And then all of a sudden you fail, not because you're not able to actually do the work, but because you can't thrive in the scenario that you're in. And so what I really hope is that companies adopt more of a mindset to allow candidates to choose what's best for them. And so a lot of companies have started doing things like take-home projects, which personally I'm not a fan of. And that's just my own opinion. I don't like that because I don't want to spend 3 hours building a back end to connect to a front end to serve, some data to some, client or whatever. Like, that's just not what I want to do with my weekend personally. I'd much rather be in this time constraint of 45 minutes and, I have to do it. And if I don't, maybe I don't get in. But again, like, a lot of other people would prefer to do a take-home project and would prefer to build something that they can on their own time, without the time constraints. And then hopefully, that works better for them. So I'm hoping that the interview landscape sort of keeps evolving and changing. And I hope that companies more just adopt a mindset of, this works for Kevin and something else works for someone else. Let's give them both, a chance to do their best.
Could not agree more. And
I
I
think
believe
that
some people may have a misconception about when we talk about, you mentioned it improves your problem solving skills, you get the idea of space and time complexity analysis or whatever. So all the things that you mentioned, I totally agree with. Like problem solving skills are important. Your data structures and algorithm skills are extremely important. But here we are talking about compared programming. So Kevin, my question to you is like, what did you use when you were preparing for your Google interviews? Do you have any like high rankings on these in these like competitions? Do you do like code forces or whatever, or was it just like lead code?
I personally have never, I don't think I've ever done a lead code contest. I don't think I've ever done an actual quote
Amazing.
unquote
That's
competitive.
yeah. So yeah, that's exactly my point for everyone who is listening. So data structure algorithms are important. When I say like CP is not mandatory, most folks think that Kunal is saying, oh, DSA is not mandatory, time complexity isn't mandatory, or he's against like, lead code problems. No, lead code and problem solving and stuff are different. You can still clear all your Google interviews. And compared programming is a sport that is different. That is like actually getting into competitions, rankings, and things like that. That is why I asked Kevin if he was into compared programming or was he into like just pure data structures and algorithms and problem solving. So problem solving is crucial. I'm actually, I'm teaching a course on that, and I tell everyone, please do it, don't skip it. And even any fresher comes to me and they're like, what do I do? I'm like, hey, at least do data structures algorithms. Then you can try to explore various domains. So repeating again, compare programming, at least in my case, if you want to crack these companies or whatever, it's a total waste of time if you don't have interest in it. If you are interested in it, go for it. But never ever skip your data structures, algorithms, and problem solving. People like Kevin and there's one more guy, Rahul, who works at Facebook, Alex, who also worked at Facebook, and then he went on to Robinhood. They have hired 300, 400 engineers. No one did compare programming. It's not required, right? Only do it when you have interest. That's what I wanted to convey. Gaurav, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to confirm with Kevin. Kevin, do you mean that you have never done a lead code contest and you have done compare programming, or you have not done compare programming and you have practiced through other means?
The latter, basically. I've never really, like, again, going back to what Kunal was saying, I think it really depends on what you want, right? So for me, I was never trying to get into quote unquote competitive programming and do contests and win tournaments or money. I was always the end goal of like, okay, I want to work at a larger tech company and this is a game I have to play.
Amazing.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. No, so for me personally, I haven't done much lead code contests or lead code. I have done compare programming, and most of the like people in with me in DirectEye, they just appeared for the interview. We were already practiced because we had been practicing at a much higher level. So it was like we were asked to run 500 meters when we were practicing for marathons. So it became very easy in that sense. But yes, later on, what happened is everyone started practicing for marathons instead of focusing on the 500 meters, which they need to do. And the rest of the skills for a lot of people went for a toss. Yeah, well, if the aim is to get into a company, yeah, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Like you said, Kevin, I don't think the interview process as such is broken totally. I don't think compare programming is the worst way, let's say, to prepare. But yeah, it's probably not the best way to prepare either.
Yeah, what I would recommend is prepare for your interviews, data structure algorithms, problem solving, keep practicing, and explore. See what you like. A little bit in open source or development. Try to build things, go to events, network with people, and keep practicing till your interviews come, and you're gonna be fine. Logan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, competitive programming, is it something that folks have done in the context of like a team setting? Because I feel like that's also one of the potential challenges compared with something like open source.
It's like
Not
playing chess in a team, actually. It has all nothing to do with teamwork. Yeah, you do have a set of individuals who come together and then have the same name, which they call the team name. Really, to be honest, though, there's not much of teamwork involved. If there are certain contests where you actually sit down together and discuss the algorithms which are in a problem. So one person is a really good coder, one person is really good at math, and one person may be really good at knowing a lot of algorithms, specifically, let's say geometry, specifically, let's say on trees, on graphs. So in that sense, yes, there is some teamwork involved, but it's more like four minds coming together and brainstorming really quickly. It's not really like gymnasts who are synchronized. There's nothing even remotely close to that. No.
It is in the case of like when I see finalists coding of various competitions. I mean, they are world ranked number one, so obviously we expect them to be. But generally, it's not like Gaurav said, and I agree with that. There's a tweet pinned in the space, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop those. There's one by Rohan. So some people justify it by CP by saying that it helps you think and solve problems with speed and accuracy as compared to simple lead coding. What's your take on this? Helps you to think and solve problems with speed and accuracy can also be achieved via lead code. So I'm not sure what you mean. All right. Anyone else has any take on that?
Yeah, there's better ways to do it. Like I said, I mean, I'm using the same example again and again. Don't practice for the marathon if you don't really need to do it. So yes, you can be really good at solving problems really quickly. You can read a problem statement and then know what to do. But the fact is, I think Kevin made a really good point here. Some people prefer this. It's much better than the college practicals, which just say, here's a graph coding scenario. This is what you need to do. Versus a comparative programming scenario where you need to take an English problem statement and convert it into a mathematical one. And then there is something like, let's say, projects or open-ended questions, which are much harder to solve. Different people have different, preferences. A company will be choosing based on what it believes to be the best way to test. But having said that, yeah, if you have multiple ways to test, like, okay, fine, comparative programming, yeah, that would be interesting.
Cool. And there's one more question. We see that online coding assessments for FANG-like companies are getting harder day by day, and more CP knowledge is required to ace them. I personally don't believe CP knowledge is required, but like Kevin mentioned, from like speaking from his experience, he mentioned that he just prepared for it and that's it. So I think like, yeah, that's the way it is. And I personally believe like more and more companies are trying to hire folks via open source. So if anything in the future, I can see like Kevin mentioned, you want to take a challenge, you can take a challenge. You want to do a coding problem, you can do a coding problem. So giving people the flexibility of like what they want to do, maybe that in the future, who knows, maybe time will tell. All right. Let's see if there are any other questions. Cool. Adarsh is saying CP has become what it is today in India due to some people spreading it as a mandatory stuff to do in tech. And also people do it because they don't know any other way to get validation and recognition in the tech world. This is extremely true in colleges where there isn't much open source culture or community culture. So yeah, the thing in many colleges I've seen is do computer programming for 4 years and get a job, and that's it. That's what's going to help you, and that is actually not true. That's actually very bad. So yeah, something we're trying to fix. Anyway, anyone else has? Yeah, Shive, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, so actually I had a question for Gaurav and for Kevin. I think this applies to both the US and India. So we have some very specific companies, right, that probably work in quant research or high frequency trading. So, I mean, things like Tower Research, or if you're in the US, you'll be having Jane Street or Three Sigma, right? Two Sigma, my bad. These companies are sort of dealing with such kind of things, right? Where you do require really great algorithmic and mathematical skills. So, do you feel that CP might be relevant for such kind of roles? Again, this is going very, very niche, and like we don't really have a lot of companies which are working in this space. But do you feel that it might be a helpful over there if you're looking to build your career in these kind of companies?
Well, yes, it could. A few of my computer programmer friends are in Tower Research, and it's I think it's more of a IQ thing. Like Kevin was mentioning, these tests are aptitude tests at the end of the day. When they ask you to fill an airplane with golf balls, they're basically seeing how much capacity can you estimate, how close are you, and how good are you at calculations. There's also some of the questions which are asked in, let's say, Tower Research or in the high frequency trading industry. Uh, they are very mathematical. There's, in fact, some of the people who join them are pure math people. They may not even know how to program. They program in Scala. They program in any way that they like. As long as they can define a time complexity for that algorithm, and as long as they can find mathematical patterns in the data that they are looking into, companies are happy with them. They don't care about, let's say, I don't know, like they don't really care about you hacking through your problem. It's going to be a much more complex problem that a team is going to solve, and it requires a lot more mathematical work than most computer programmers have. Amateur computer programmers have nowhere near the level of skill that you need for that kind of problem. But it may be helpful. Maybe it's much better just to read more math and read more about compilers and read more about computer science, in my personal opinion, than to try it with computer programming. Although a person who will be better suited to answer this probably is someone like Rachit Jain, or people who are in the computer programming space and have gone into HFT.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing. Someone is asking, Aryan is asking, Kunal, why don't you think that CP is not for Tier 3 students? And I'm one of those. Tier 3 students, for those of you who don't know, are students who don't get many on-campus opportunities. So I believe like you should not waste your time in computer programming, because you have to try off campus like I did and many of my other friends did, because companies are not going to visit your college. So you have to try outside, and over there, your profile, your resume, your skills, those things matter quite like a lot. And in that case, computer programming is a risk because you're betting everything on the rankings. But on the other hand, if you have a good developer profile, a lot of nice projects, publications, or whatever, definitely a lot more opportunities will come. So that's the reason I don't recommend it. All right. But yeah, that was
Yes.
pretty much about it. And yeah, go ahead.
Kunal, just to pick on that point, this is exactly why computer programming became famous. It's because Anudeep Nikanti was from a tier 3 college, college which didn't have much opportunity in terms of jobs or anything, even getting placed in a good college for higher education, let's say in the US or some other country. So here comes a person who has just done computer programming and then gets a job at Google, Zurich. It's a dream come true. For people in 2014, it was unheard of. So it was an alternate path. It's been used so often now that it has become the mainstream path. And I kind of see maybe 4 years down the line, people talking about why open source has failed in India. It could be that people start using open source no longer for the open source has nothing to do with jobs, right? It has everything to do with building a community, providing a platform for individuals to come and grow, solving common problems for the community. There's collaboration here. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with jobs. It's a side effect that you actually get a good job from it because you start gaining all the skills that you need for a job. So it's similar. I mean, I can
I think
say
like
it's similar. Yeah.
with your first example of like the Google one, I do that is why I mentioned that there's a risk, and I didn't say it's like impossible. So basically with computer programming, when you hear about these stories, like okay, this person got into Facebook, or like from for person from my college, for example, the relative numbers are extremely low. It's not like 100 people get like that. I can see like 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 even. So that is why I mentioned that there's a lot of risk factor. Second thing is that when you're talking about these FANG type companies, they really don't care that much about CP if you have a good profile. I mean, if you don't have a good profile, if you don't have CP rankings either, then like then obviously you don't have anything, right? So if you're not going
Right.
into computer programming but you have a good profile, then that's great. And third point is that I sort of like little bit disagree. Job is a side effect of like open source, and in India, I mean, open source has been active for quite a lot of time, and so many like amazing open source contributors like from India actively contributing for the past a lot of years. Job is a side effect because many folks and engineers have their daily job as contributing to open source. Like it's their literally they get paid to contribute to open source. Red Hat has most of their projects like open source, and like VMware is there, and these folks get paid to work on open source projects. And last but not least, getting a job via open source is a very it has been happening every day. Like it happens every day. People get hired via open source every single day. There's like internship programs and everything. So I think the number of people that get hired via open source is exponentially higher, even in the student community, as compared to someone grabbing an off-campus role with computer programming. Because yeah, I can totally like support that statement. Like job is definitely one of the major factors when it comes to open source, because everything you do is out there. You work with people in the community, and they get they refer you, they hire you, or things like that. So that this is why I recommend this path and not the computer programming path to students. Like there's no risk over here. You do good work, you will learn, and you will definitely get a job. But in computer programming, only 1%, 2 people get the role, and people think like, okay, this is it. So that's what I
No,
wanted to
yeah,
mention.
that's absolutely true. Open source is much closer to the, let's say, job that you'll be doing. The work that you're doing at open source is much closer. We have also had some really good contributions to open source from India. But having said that, I mean, if it becomes a mainstream thing, you'll start seeing a lot of people come forward who have the intent of getting a job. So therefore, they contribute to open source.
They should.
Yeah, and
If you want to contribute to open source to get a job, do it. I'm encouraging it.
yeah, that's good.
It's
That's
actually
absolutely
it's
nice.
actually a good thing. Yeah, you get a job because of your open source contribution. This should be mainstreamed in the entire country.
I totally agree with you, Kunal. This is
Yeah.
brilliant. People should contribute to open source to get a job. I think it was the same thought process that a lot of people came forward and said, you should do computer programming to get a job. You're going to get better algorithms. You're going to get better at solving problems. And that's why you should do it for getting a job. Of course, it's nowhere close to as efficient as.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like the point Gaurav mentioned, why people do CP, and that's exactly how we started this conversation as well. So yeah, I totally agree with that point. Like that's why people started to get a job, and yeah, totally agree. But it's not working out because it's just not working out. All right. We covered about all of these things. I don't think we have anything else over here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Got removed. Mistake. Adding him back. All right. Cool. Lots of questions on open source. We can have separate session on that. But this was a great space, and things that I've been saying for the past 2 years. People also agreed with those, so I feel happy. All right. Anyone else has any last questions? Feel free to raise your hand.
I just wanted to say hi to Shreya. Shreya, hi. She's been on the channel and she's spoken about interesting topics. It's great to see you again. Hey.
Man, so many verified people in the space. I love it. All right. If anyone wants to give them like a shout out, a shout out to Gaurav for joining. Really appreciate it. If anyone wants to get involved with system design, he also has done some nice podcasts recently, so check it out. Gaurav Sen. I do. What do? I do community work, and my channel is focused
Let
on.
me vouch for you, Kunal. It sounds more impressive. So, Kunal has been in the open source community for a really long time now. It's been years now, isn't it, Kunal?
So I started in freshman year, so it has not been that long. I am yet to graduate. I graduate this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so
But yeah,
it's in multiple years, and also the quantity or the volume of content that Kunal has been able to post in the short period of time is amazing. He's also he's like the real deal. He actually posts about things which actually are useful. So uh, people a lot of people agree or disagree with his with the, let's say, with many things that Kunal
the
does, but
CP
one thing,
views.
yeah, or
Not many, only computer programming.
but one thing that they don't disagree on is that Kunal actually posts really useful content. It's amazing, and
Hmm.
it's something which is very helpful. I think it's helping a lot of people in college make the right decision. So thank you so much for doing that, and do
Thanks.
follow him. Of course, you are in his Twitter space. You can also follow him on YouTube. He's got tons of subscribers. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, Gaurav. And Kevin, who also joined the channel, he also has his YouTube channel, Kevin Not Junior. I believe I pronounced that correctly. Um, yeah, please check that out as well. And Allison in the space. Allison also has a nice channel. I did a podcast with Allison. If you just go to my channel, you can check it out. Um, but yeah, that was pretty much about it. And we did a nice little summary that only do computer programming if you are interested in it. We are not winning any competitions because less preparation, and we are not with the mindset of winning. We are with the mindset of getting jobs. And we heard about people's experiences that computer programming is really not required to get jobs. So only do it if you have your time. Rest, it's your life, so feel free. But one thing, again, that if you just explore various fields and make projects, connect with people, network with the right folks, learn in public, show the great work you do, you will definitely get so many amazing offers and jobs. So just have fun and keep just be active in the community, and you'll find something to do every day. But yeah, all right, that's it. Thanks a lot for joining, everyone. Really appreciate it. And if you wanna share your learnings in a Twitter thread, feel free to do so. And I will see you in the next one. This was great. And please share your learnings in threads so that others can watch it because this was not recorded. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and we'll do more such sessions. And